Hey guys, it's Gamble Responsibly here with a quick editor's note before this episode starts. You might notice, first of all, it's a solo episode, but you might notice my mic sounds like absolute crap in this episode. And the bottom line is, plugged everything in, but it's pulling the sound off of my camera instead of off of my microphone. So I apologize for the sound quality in this episode. Promise to do better on the next two. Check it out because I'm sure you're going to love the picks anyway. Thanks, guys.
The 859th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog. Get up to $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code MMA SGPN. Howdy ho, Digitarinos, and welcome to the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I'm Dana Gubby Freeland. Without me today is Jeff Fox. He's on vacation for the next 3 episodes, so you're going to get me solo. But we know you guys need those picks, so we are going to be in your ears. I forgot off the top. Jeff usually dedicates the episode. Let's dedicate it to Dennis Daria. Dennis Daria said some real nice things about the show in YouTube, on our YouTube comments. So make sure you head on over to YouTube, hit the comments up frequently. That kind of stuff always boosts our numbers and boosts the algorithm. So we really appreciate that. Dennis Daria said some really nice things about how good our show typically is. So once again, I'm Daniel Gumby Breland. You guys might know me as the guy who's been on all 859 of these episodes, despite the fact that my co-host likes to take little breaks. And today we're going to be breaking down the second half of the PFL MENA episode. Yesterday, we broke down PFL MENA using just the welterweight contest. Today we're going to be breaking down the bantamweight contest as well as one amateur atomweight fight. There were only 4 bantamweight fights, so we want to make sure that we get 5 fights to you, as we always do, fresh and early on these ones. So we're going to be breaking down all of those. But before we do, let me quickly remind you guys that NASCAR's in-season tournament is here. That's right. And we're running a free contest. Just head on over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NASCAR contest for your chance to win a $200 gift card. And make sure to subscribe to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Let's face it, those guys are the best in the world at what they do. If you like my MMA picks, or you like anybody on this network here, you're definitely going to like the guys on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Super entertaining, always a good listen. Check them out wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. So, as I said before, we are doing PFL MENA today. That's right, we're hitting the last 5 fights on this fight card, although there is one extra AMI fight. Not going to hit it for you today. It's just, both being solo and it's an AMI fight. You barely ever get odds for that. It's just not worth it. So once again, this is taking place on Friday, and you can watch it on the PFL MENA app, or the PFL app rather. The MENA part is just a part of it. So you can watch both the Euro episode as well as the MENA episode this week, July 4th. This one's coming to you on Independence Day, and you can watch it in the PFL app, which I found is pretty useful. So without further ado, let's get into some of those picks, and we're going to start with, as I said before, with a atomweight fight, which is between Nour Al-Fliti and Hattan Alsaif. So we'll start with Alsaif. Obviously, these are amateurs, so she's 0-0 in her career as a pro. She's 3-0 as an amateur. She has 3 TKOs. That's right, she's finished every single one of those fights, and she's going to be 2 years younger than Fliti. Fliti, 1-1 is an amateur, again, 0-0 as a pro. She has been submitted one time, and that was in her last fight. She's coming off of a loss. She's a former 115-pounder, but as far as how I'm concerned with this fight, I don't really care that she was bigger once upon a time. For some reason, PFL MENA loves Hattan Alsaif. They think she's like the future. Now, granted, I'd really like if they knew what that future was, because right now they don't have an atomweight division. They don't really have a MENA women's division in any way, shape, or form. They've got no atomweights in PFL proper or PFL Europe, or maybe in PFL Africa, although I don't even really know what's going on there. So they don't really have a plan for Alsaif. And so they clearly like her and clearly want to build her up, and maybe her being in Saudi Arabia is a big part of their marketing scheme. But I wish they knew what they were doing with her, because in this fight, she's going to roll again. She's got 3 TKO victories. She's got a really well-rounded skill set for pretty much any amateur atomweight, right? Like, I think we could bring her to the United States and she'd be fighting in Invicta, making her pro debut tomorrow, and she'd hold her own, or more so than just hold her own. She's got quick hands. She's really sharp with her combinations. She knows how to put things together. You know, like she is a really strong stand-up fighter. And then on top of that, she's got a little bit of wrestling. Her jiu-jitsu doesn't suck. You know, like she's really a well-rounded fighter from the amateur side. My guess, if I had to put a guess on the line on this fight, they're probably going to come in somewhere at like negative 2,500 on Alsaif. And just so people don't think I'm just doing lip service to Alsaif and knowing that she's like the hot commodity or the 3-0 fighter against the 1-1, I did watch Fliti. You know, I went back and watched the fight where she was submitted, and I also got some like other footage from, you know, some of her training and some of the fights that she won. And really the bottom line is just like there's not a lot of grappling defense there. It's clear she's got some kickboxing in her background. I don't think it's as good as Alsaif, so I think she's going to get worked on the feet. But then even if Fliti started to find, you know, a little bit of success on the feet, or maybe started to make Alsaif feel a little uncomfortable, like that's great for her. And, you know, I would consider that a win on her side. But then she's just going to get steamrolled. She's going to get taken down. She's going to get submitted in almost no time. So Hattan Alsaif is the play. But my guess is that line is going to look quite a bit ridiculous and probably something that you're not interested in. All right, so that takes us through the first fight. And no, we got time for one more before hitting a little commercial break. So let's take it to the 135-pound division. That's right, the 135-pound tournament for PFL MENA gets started. So this is a quarterfinal fight. And we've got, hang on one second, I'm just pulling up little things I got over here. We got Nawras, Abzakh. Nawras, Abzakh, and Ali Yazbeck. You know, and usually here I am ragging on Jeff and his pronunciations, and it's a lot harder when he's not here. So let's talk about Abzakh first. His nickname's the Honey Badger. He's 12-6 in his career. He's got 1 knockout, 7 submissions. He has been knocked out 3 times in his career. He's 0-1 in PSL. He is 5-2 over his last 7. He has multiple regional championships on his, oh God, that sucks when he's not here, mantle. And then he's a former 125-pounder. He made his debut in 2014. Yazbeck, on the other hand, 5-0-1. He's got 1 knockout, 3 submissions. He is making his PFL debut. He does have a draw in his last fight, so he's 5-0-1 in his professional career. He's fought at 145 pounds, 170 pounds, which is way up there. He's got 2 inches of height, and he is 5 years younger than Abzakh. So in this fight, I'm going to go with Abzakh. I think he's going to be a massive underdog in this fight. And that's actually maybe my first big swing at an underdog. You guys, if you've listened to the show, watched the show, whatever it might be, hopefully you're watching on YouTube, because, you know, that's where we get the big clicks. But wherever it is you're listening to it, you know I like to take some swings on big underdogs, particularly on the regional. Abzakh, for me, tough as hell. He's fought some really high-level competition. You know, the record might scare people away. You know, 12-6 certainly doesn't write home and tell you, like, hey, you know, I want to back this guy. But he's tough. He throws some really hard hooks, particularly when he can close that range. And you know, maybe he doesn't have the most submissions in his career, but he does have good submission skills, and that's the thing I really like about him. And then when you look at Yazbeck, you know, like, he's kind of got good top control when he fights. But I would say the takedowns aren't really there for him to get me that top control. Like, I think he's good once he gets there. And obviously he's got some submissions on his record, but like, I don't know that he will hit enough of those takedowns that make me feel good that that's a big piece of it. And, you know, his hands are all right, and like, he kind of uses his kicks as this main way of establishing range, which, you know, there's good things about that and there's bad things about that. But like, at the end of the day, I just think Nawras is going to be a little bit meaner with the hooks. I think his takedown defense can hold up and force Yazbeck to strike with him. And if I didn't say so earlier, you know, I think he's going to be a big underdog. I think we're probably looking in the like plus 300 range for Abzakh. And, you know, despite coming off of a loss, I really like his chances in that one. So for a big underdog swing here, we're going to take Nawras Abzakh. Okay, and that takes us through 2 fights on the day. And that means we're just about time for a quick little commercial break. And so let me tell you, first of all, that this episode is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet on every sport, including the MLB, WNBA, golf, and of course football futures. And heck, they've got tons of MMA, including regional MMA, just like PFL MENA. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations. They got easy deposits, lightning fast payouts, using crypto. And look, as I said before, they've got UFC, regional MMA, whatever it is you're looking to bet. If you've heard it on this show, it's probably on MyBookie, so make sure you go check that out. And you can head on over to MyBookie.ag and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match of up to $1,000. And heck, throw the MMA in front of it. MMA SGPN gets you the same deposit match, and it puts a little pat on my back. Terms and conditions apply. That's MyBookie.ag, promo code MMA SGPN. And Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas has given away their ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for their stay. Look, Circa is the best place to watch and bet on sports. And if you win this contest, you're going to get a limo ride from the airport, a $5,000 tab for stadium swim, and a hotel stay for you and your 11 league mates. And you can always get 15% off all the Circa properties with promo code SGP15. Once again, this is your last chance to enter the Circa Ultimate Fantasy Football Giveaway, and you can do so at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Circa. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. All right, that takes us through 2 bouts. And so we're going to get our next bout here in the 135-pound division. And of course, this one is going to be between a couple of guys who also have wicked hard names to say. There's the Wicked coming out. Massachusetts stand up. We're going to talk about Mehdi Saadi and Elias Boudegzdame. Boudegzdame. Yeah, terrible name to say. All right. So first, we'll talk about Elias. His nickname is Smile. He's 19-9 in his pro career. He's got 2 knockouts, 16 submissions. He has been knocked out 3 times. He's 1-1 in PSL. He's loss in his last 3. He's 3-3 in his last 6, 4-5 in his last 9. He is coming off of a loss. He has won the regional championship, and he used to fight at 145 pounds. Saadi, on the other hand, 6-2 in his professional career, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions. So he is finishing fights, and he's finishing them often. He's got 1 knockout. This is his PFL debut. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and he's got a TKO win in his last fight. Although he hasn't lost since May of 2023, and he's fought at both 45 and 50. So this is another fight where I'm looking underdog here. And again, we're just playing guess and check with the odds here because the odds have not dropped at the time of recording here. So we don't know what the PFL MENA odds are going to look like. But I'm going to say I like what I'm assuming will be another underdog here. I like Elias Boudegzdame. Yeah, and I like him basically because I've seen some really good submission skills on him. You know, we just read it off. He's got 16 submissions in his career. But it's not just the submissions. Like, he fought Bryce Picot Picot, it's a French guy, Picot, in his last fight? Last fight or second to last fight. And, you know, we saw a big takedown on there. You know, he picked him up, slammed him. One of the things I don't like about him, if I'm being really frank, is that he fights with his hands very close to his face. To the point where they're so far in close to the middle of his body that it almost looks like it's hard for him to get his arms and his shoulders behind. But, like, look, the fact of the matter is we don't really need him to strike to cash here for us. We need him to get to that jiu-jitsu game and get to it as early as possible. You know, and I watched Saadi's film, and, you know, if I was going to break it down, like, first of all, I think he's a much worse wrestler. I think he's a guy who is probably primed to be taken down pretty easily here by Boudegzdame. And so, you know, I think that's already a big problem here. And then on top of that too, like, you know, if my big concern with Elias, with the Smile, if you will, so I don't have to say that name for a 15th time, my big concern with Smile is that, like, he doesn't look like he's doing the right things on the feet, or he looks a little tentative, or maybe he's not in a place where he can land any power shots. You know, when I watch Saadi, like, he's not fast on his feet, particularly for his size. Like, you would expect a bantamweight to be much stronger, much faster than we see from Saadi. And you know, that alone might already be enough for him to have to grapple in his own right? Because if you're like a slow bantamweight, the odds are you're going to get lit up. And so for Boots here, he's not going to have to really worry about the strike. I think he stays out of range. I think when Saadi gets really upset about it, he's going to shoot in, or he's going to swing a little wilder, a little crazier. And I think that's going to give Smile a chance to work in some of those takedowns, work in some of that ground control. As long as he gets in on some of that ground control, I think this is his fight to win. So that's going to be Elias Boudegzdame. Is how we're officially going to say it. All right. Oh, and if I didn't predict the number, I'll say it's not a big underdog spot. Like, Saadi is only 6-2, so like that doesn't exactly boost up the confidence level to the point where like the books are gonna like install him as like an ultra favorite. But it's probably enough for him to be, negative 200 or something like that. So let's say 120 or 175 for Elias. All right, and that takes us through fight number 3. So let's move on down the line. We're gonna go to fight number 4. Some names that are a little bit easier to say. We're gonna talk about Mokhtar Benkaci versus Marcel Adur. So we'll start with Adur. Adur, 19-7 in his pro career with 1 no contest. He's got 13 knockouts. You heard me right. 13 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's been submitted twice. This is his PFL debut. 3-1 in his last 4. He's got a submission win in his last fight. So despite having 13 of his victories by knockout and only 4 submissions, he is coming off of a submission win. He's got multiple regional championships on his mantle. He's fought at 125 pounds, 145 pounds, and he made his debut in 2010. He's also going to have 3 inches of height over Benkaci. Benkaci's nickname is La Cabier, and he's 24-7 with 2 no contests, 12 knockouts, 8 submissions. He himself has never been finished. Super durable. 0-2 with 1 no contest in PFL, though, so hasn't exactly had the best run. But he is 4-0 in his last 4 fights, 4-2 over his last 6, though. He has finished all 4 of those fights on his current win streak. He's a regional championship and is a former 145-pounder. He also made his debut in 2010. So when breaking this one down, I'm going to go with Benkaci. Benkaci, I think, most likely is going to be the favorite here. A couple of reasons. Number 1, his record looks quite a bit better. Number 2, coming out of a little bit more well-esteemed in the camp. He's a London Shoots Fighters guy. People, tend to take that into account when they're, sort of determining who gets to be the favorite here. We've also seen a lot more recent losses out of Adur, right? He lost his second to last fight. And he's got some draws in there as well. So I think for that reason, we're going to see Benkaci as a favorite. I'm going to say like negative 210 here. The reasons I like him is the pressure. You watch him fight Franz Moambo, which was one of his more recent fights. He got in Franz Moambo's face. The pressure of cutting off the cage worked really well against him. Now, granted, he did go on to lose that fight, but like that's the thing I already like. I also like the head movement. He's got some grappling. I wouldn't say it's particularly good. He covers up a little bit too much on defense and is maybe a little tentative on offense, but that's only until he starts to find his range and gets really comfortable. So that's how I break down Benkaci. On the other side, I would say, man, what do I want to say about Adur first? So when he fought Demarte Pena, let's start with that fight. Like the Demarte Pena fight is a good example of why he's good and also why he's not good. Like he's throwing really big in that fight and looking aggressive. And look, we just rattled off his knockout numbers. He's got a ton of knockouts on his record. I think I said 13 of his wins are by knockout. So like he clearly is knocking people out. And we saw him going for that against Demarte Pena. But also what we saw there was that he was insanely hittable. He was a guy who is right in front of you, ready to be hit, is possibly too hittable. And when we're talking about Benkaci, I think the first thing I said about him is I really like his head movement. I like his ability to get out of people's range, force people to swing and miss. So we got Adur, a guy who's not afraid to swing and miss, up against a guy who is going to be moving well enough to force you to miss and then probably sting you as a result. That's not great. And then on top of that, too, if we watch Adur, he's a guy who, he's got low hits on the takedown attempts. Like he did a pretty good job defending them. But like, maybe necessarily didn't get him off. Same way on his offense. Like he can get to your hits, but didn't do a really good job of staying on top of people. So like, there's some grappling there, and maybe that's his path to victory over Benkaci here. But I think Benkaci probably just picks and prods from the outside, beats him up a little bit, and we see plenty of success. So we're going to go with Mokhtar Benkaci. All right, so that takes us through our first 4 fights, which of course means it's time for another quick commercial break for you. And that's perfect timing because guess what? It is time for Underdog Best Ball Mania is happening all summer long, giving away $15 million in prizes, including $2 million to first place. No waiver wire, no arguments about trades. Best ball, it's the best way to play fantasy football. And Underdog is also a great place to play Pick'em. As I just said, I like playing Underdog Fantasy Pick'em all the time. One of the guys I've been on lately is Alejandro Kirk, putting up big numbers, hitting the ball quite a bit right now. He's hot as can be. Took the day off against the Red Sox on Sunday, but we're going to get in on his total bases in his very next game. And you can get in on that too when you sign up using promo code MMA SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus credits. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code MMA SGPN. And you've heard us talk about Rhythm before, and they just dropped a game-changing feature called Power Trends. These are AI-detected patterns where Rhythm's model has consistently won and has a high return on investment. Think a strikeout prop that wins 59% of the time with a line and win probability hit a certain range. Power Trends are updated daily and exclusive to Rhythm. No touts, no noise, just clean data-backed picks. Download the Rhythm app and check out Power Trends and start betting smarter. We know you will. And my personal favorite one, where do you think I got the info on Alejandro Kirk and his hot bat? Of course, I'm getting that from Rhythm because that is the best place to get information on whatever sport you need, and you can get it for free right now. Get your free 7-day trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. That's Rhythm, RITHMM. All right, we are down to our last fight of this fight card, or at least of the 5 fights on this Bantamweight contest. So let's kick it on over to the very last one here, which is between Xavier Alaoui and Ziad Moktar. So we'll start with Moktar first. His nickname is the Panther. He's 4-1 in his pro career with 4 submissions. He has been submitted once, so every single fight he's been in has ended by submission. He's 4-0 in his last 4 fights. He last lost in August of 2017, so it's been a minute. And he used to fight down at 125 pounds. He's 6 years younger. Got 1 inch of height, 2 inches of reach over Alaoui. Alaoui, his nickname, get this is a good one. The Bread Man. That's right, the Bread Man. He's 15-6 with 1 knockout, 6 submissions. Been knocked out once, submitted once. He's 0-1 in PFL, 1-2 in his last 3, 3-3 in his last 6. He is coming off of a win, though. He's got multiple regional championships on his mantle, and he made his debut in 2014. So for this one, I'm going to go with Alaoui. I think the experience plays out here. I think that's the big piece for me here. If you watched his fight with Demarte Pena, it seems like everybody in this tournament fought Demarte Pena at some point in time, so excuse me for continuously bringing his name up. But when he fought Demarte Pena, his counters were sharp. Demarte Pena comes with like a little bit of hooks, a little bit of wanging shots, and Alaoui just kept countering him clean down the middle, right down the middle. It's always multiples, which is another thing I like about him. You see a lot of counters out of Alaoui, but even when he counters, it's not one and walk away. 1, 2, 3 and pivot. So I really like that. And I think we've seen some really smart and improved wrestling defense out of him. If you look early in his career, watch some of his early fights, the wrestling defense is certainly not there yet. Like he clearly needs to round it out, but it seems like it's rounding out a little bit. And then when you watch Moktar, like this is I think I would define him as like, what's the word? He's like weirdly lanky. Not necessarily in a good way, but he is weirdly lanky. I know he's only 1 inch taller than Alaoui, but we are talking about 3 inches of reach here, which is, I think, fairly significant. So he's like a real lean, lanky guy. He's long, which, sometimes is an issue for another guy who's going to try to outstrike him, possibly an Alaoui. But the problem with him being long is it's just like a one-shot long. Like, as you can see by his record, the 4-1, the 4 submissions, all that kind of stuff. This is a guy who likes to hit one shot and then try to get on the inside for the grappling. He is a guy who maybe comes from the Stefan Struve school of being a lanky dude, which just means that he'd way rather tie you up in a triangle choke than he would try to figure out how to, put a combination together and hurt you. On top of that, too, Alaoui is a guy who trains at TriStar, which is another reason why I think the book will install him as a favorite here. Like, He comes with a good game plan every single time. He looks like he knows what he's doing in there. And, he's picked up a couple of losses lately, which might help us bring the odds down. I mentioned I thought he would be a favorite at the top. I don't think necessarily a big favorite. We're probably talking about like negative 165. Like, this is a guy who, yes, he's good and he has been good, but like, the losses certainly are going to make people second guess it. So, but I think ultimately, his wrestling defense keeps him away from grappling with Moktar, which is big for him. And then on top of all of that too, I really think, the hands and the way he puts together combinations, he doesn't just leave it at one strike, is the difference maker. So that's going to do it for the 5 fights. PFL MENA at 135 pounds. Let me give you the winners real quick again. I'm going to go with Alaoui. I'm going to go with Benkaci. I'm going to go with Boudegzdame, which again, miserable to say. I'm going to go with Abzakh, and again, I'm going to go with Alsaif. And again, that's going to do it for this episode of the MMA Gambling Podcast. Once again, check out sportsgamblingpodcast.com for all of my writing, all of my co-host Jeff writing. We do picks every single day over there. I'm doing some underdog fantasy picks. I'm doing some no-run first inning picks. You're going to want to check that out. You can also check out our work outside of this podcast here. You can check Jeff out at moneymma.substack.com. He's got fun contests going on over there. He's got payout information, all kinds of good stuff. And you can also check out my other podcast. I run the Top Turtle MMA podcast. This week, we're going to be talking to Anthony Guarasio, who is going to be fighting on Contender Series coming up this summer. And we are also talking to Salvatore Liga, who is going to be on PFL Europe, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. So once again, make sure you check us out tomorrow on the PFL Europe episode. I'm Danny Gubby Breland. There is no Jeff Fox, and I'll see you tomorrow.